And this is not to rain down on Andrew Holness like the PNP would do any better. Because I believe that anyone who would have been in power, whether it's PNP or JLP, any one of them would have done the same thing. Why? Because they have made a concerted effort since we got our independence to identify the country with imperialists. Last week, as the conflict unfolded in the Middle East, Jamaica's Prime Minister put out this statement, sympathizing with the colonizing occupation force. I cannot put into words the utter disappointment and embarrassment that I feel as a descendant of African slaves who had to fight the oppressor over and over again, many of whom lost their lives fighting so that we could be free. Now that we have our freedom, our leaders are choosing the side of the oppressors. Think about it. We're getting ready to celebrate our national heroes. The people who were executed for fighting back, for fighting our colonizers. The people who lost their lives because they dared to stand up against the oppressor. And as we get ready to celebrate these people, in theory, what we're doing in practice is siding with the people who would have colonized them today, who would have enslaved them today, who would have oppressed them today. And I'm not going to entertain any discussion with anyone about who is right or who is wrong, because in this scenario, if you feel that the oppressor is the one that's right, well, that says a lot about you and your view of humanity. Of course, people are entitled to their opinions, but a lot of these opinions are not based on facts. They're based on emotions, they're based on religion, and they're based on politics. And in all this, so many people have forgotten their humanity. But the thing that gets to me the most is this concerted effort to get Jamaicans to identify with the colonizer and not the colonized. To get ordinary Jamaicans to identify with the oppressor and not the oppressed. To get Jamaicans to identify with the wrongdoer and not the person who is being wronged. I mean, the Prime Minister could have gone without saying anything. He's not a major player in this by any stretch of the imagination. He could have just kept silent. He could have stayed out of it. But he made a concerted effort to bring Jamaica into this political realm and cause shame and embarrassment to us as Black people. And this is not to rain down on Andrew Holness like the PNP would do any better. Because I believe that anyone who would have been in power, whether it's PNP or JLP, any one of them would have done the same thing. Why? Because they have made a concerted effort since we got our independence to identify the country with imperialists. They have made a concerted effort to make sure that Jamaica and Jamaicans identify with imperialists, that we identify more with the cause of the colonizers. And so we don't make the same effort to form alliances with African countries. We don't make the same effort to form alliances with Caribbean countries. We don't make the same effort to form alliances with people who are like us, because our government since independence have been steadfast in trying to get us to identify with imperialists. And so when the Prime Minister takes trips like these and comes back and talk about some renewed partnership and some agreement or whatever, really what the crux of that agreement is that when push comes to shove, this is where Jamaica will stand. That's the crux of whatever agreement, whatever you see him shaking hands on. And I say him because he's the person in the seat, but really because Jamaica is a toy for you-know-who, because Jamaica remains in the palms of you-know-who, anyone who would have been in that seat would be doing the exact same thing. Because that is what we are. We are a pawn, we are toys in the imperialist game. And I feel nothing but shame that as we celebrate the heroes who died so that we could be free, we are siding with the people who are doing this, who are withholding water, and food and allowing millions of people, in half of whom are children, to starve. And if you just started reading up about this last week and you just started hearing about this conflict last week and you don't know what led up to it, please go and do your research before you seek to argue with me in the comments. The information is out there for anyone who wants to learn and anyone who wants to have a real intellectual discussion on what is taking place. And if you're a Black Jamaican who feels that in this instance, the colonizer occupying force is the one who is right, if you feel that the oppressor is correct in allowing millions of people to starve to death and to bomb them out of existence, then I am ashamed for you too.